Hello and welcome to the latest from the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. This is a Monday premiere show. This is on both podcast and YouTube format. My name is Joel Sked and I'm delighted to be joined by the man who played Teddy Brodus on popular US teen drama Hang Time, Anthony Anderson. How are you, Tony?
I am very well. I liked Hang Time.
Same, loved it.
It was one of those, that was an era of trouble.
Yes.
It was always trouble, wasn't it? You come home and there was always there was always a lesson to be learned in all the shows. It wasn't just like there would be comedy, but something that you'd have to learn. I remember one, I'm pretty sure it was in Hang Time though. And I've spoken about this with friends before actually. And the guy, eventually he's getting into smoking weed. And it's a big thing about obviously that you shouldn't do that and drugs are bad. But what happens is he doesn't fix someone's bike that he said he was going to in Hang Time. And then the brakes weren't working. So when the guy, after he said he would, the guy went to pick up his bike and the bike crashed. But during the episode, he's going to go and do it. But then someone said, you want to come and do this instead? And he chooses not to fix the bike. See, that's not really just about the drugs. That's a choice that you've made. That to not bother doing it. It's not like he takes drugs and he's forgotten. He absolutely could fix the bike. So really what I learned there is that just don't be a prick and risk other people's lives. So go do other things. But there you go. It was interesting times.
And there was some basketball interspersed amongst
Yeah. No, they're completely somehow relevant to anything in there. But yeah, I liked the Hang Time, USA High.
USA High, yep.
Yeah, Malibu, CA. That was just as I was coming to the end of my sort of trouble era. That was one. And then obviously the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and all that was.
I would alternate between that and Disney because you had like Smart Guy, Boy Meets World.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I think it was a late night. Don't know why it was late night, but Home Improvement as well. Just thought so much shit, but so much enjoyable shit.
Mm-hmm. How was you? What did you get up to over the weekend, Joe?
Nothing. It was great. I was at the Big Hearts Gala on Friday night.
You get the Maroon Blazer out, of course.
No, I've got hospitality at Ross County game later on this month.
Mix up. You know
so yeah, saving that for then. Going on Maroon that day. No, that was good. And then, honestly, it was brilliant. I did fuck all. I barely left my couch. I was meant to be potentially meeting a couple of associates, one of which was Craig Telfer. He messaged me at, I think, about 5 to 8 on Saturday night. I'd already been to the pub for one when I went to the shop, came back, and had already ordered my second takeaway. So at that point, I was like, "You've messaged me too late. I'm not coming out. I'm not leaving my house now." You've missed it.
In Edinburgh,
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, you had to have messaged me before 6:30 so I could get and come out. 8 o'clock's too late. I've committed to sitting on the couch, so that's what I did.
And once you made the order, there's no coming back from a takeaway on the couch to then going out and about.
No, yeah, you go out and then you come back to take on the couches.
Yeah, I took full advantage of the £2 pints of the Green King. Well, I apologise for everything, Green King. I was only joking. The £2 pints. So Friday. I was at a 40th, just out for a meal, but I went to the Grosvenor in Platform 5. So I went for food at Kylo. So the £2 pints there, and then dragged myself up on Saturday because I'm doing nothing next weekend because I'm doing the kilt walk on the Sunday, and that's like 20 miles. So I was like, I'm just not doing it on a hangover. I'm just not doing it. So I was like, well, I better do the £2 pints. It would be absolutely rude not to. So then I sat in the Corrie Inn for 10 hours on the Saturday as well, and I was abysmal yesterday, as you can imagine, for 2 days, and then I had to go and do like a chat about work today, which was nice. I got fed at a lunch. It was like a community group, and the lady, it's like from like the Asian Pakistani community. They all go to this church for like a week, and she gets people to come in and do some chat. So I went and done that, and then they fed me like a dal and some curry after it with some naans and stuff. So I mean, that's like in the charitable world that I work in, getting on the job lunches, very unusual. So I had a good time. But yeah, I'm gonna have to another early to bed for me tonight, I think.
I mean, there was full reason to kick the arse out of it, because there's you won't get £2 pints many times in Edinburgh. I was shocked. I went. So I live in the east side of Edinburgh, and my local does. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do Monday to Friday, and you'd be able to go in and get a pint for, I think it was like under £3, £2.75, I think it was. So I went. I had to go to Morrison's. So I went, I'm going to nip in for a pint just on my own. I like having a solo pint, sit, just chill. And then when they charged me £4.25, I was like, we're miles away from the city centre. What's happening?
It's just that's the way it is now. Getting a pint for under £4, just impossible. It's just something you have to. It's just nearly. But I like the joy that I was hoping that the £2 and then other. I live in the southwest of the west of Edinburgh, and other pubs around that weren't Green King sort of fought back and started saying, £1.95 a pint. It's like the Clary Inn and the Terrace. They were fighting back. I was like, imagine this became a thing. Pubs started warring over. Finally, capitalism works for me.
Yeah.
But it won't, and everyone will continue to pay.
It turns into like Magaluf or Beaver, where they've got people outside the Clary Inn trying to entice you in.
Yeah. 2 for 1. Or what, pints at the Clary Inn.
Okay, if you insist.
Nah, if you want. But anyway, Joe.
Yes, we're here to talk about Scotland national team and a couple of clubsmen here to discuss the Scotland national team and the 2-1 loss to Portugal in League A of the Nations League in the Estadio da Luz. I would ask you how you felt the game went generally, but we'd end up going on different tangents and probably just losing the run of ourselves. So let's just start with the beginning. The same team as the loss to Poland on Thursday night. What were your thoughts when the team got announced? Because I know, just looking at social media, I don't. At the moment, it doesn't take Scotland fans much to get frustrated or angry, and the starting 11 certainly did that. What was your view on it?
Well, just like it's yawn. It's boring. It very much is. And I've realised over this sort of period now that I am absolutely a fair weather Scotland fan. When the going was good, I got myself so excited. I've spent a shitload of money going to see, get involved and going to see Scotland in Germany, and it was a great time. But the gut punches are just too much. I got so into it, and I was so buzzing. I really felt we were going to do something over that period, especially like recording a view for the terrace and stuff. You do get buzzed to go on and talk about the big Scotland ones because you know it's the opportunity that everyone it's something that everyone can get involved in. And I suppose it's just something that people like us hadn't really enjoyed, like that universe. It's only been the last 4 years that we've had that sort of universal loving between everyone's just buzzing about the Scotland national team, and then you realise I don't know if I've got in me. I don't know if I've got in me to do another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Then, like it's taken a view from the terrace to give me a wee bit of fire in my belly around the Scotland national team. Still, like it's more embers rather than a burning flame in comparison to in comparison to Hearts. If you offered me just a Hearts win just now or a Scotland World Cup victory, that would be a Hearts win because done terribly. But yeah, it's. I can understand why there's so many fair weather international fans, especially if you've got a club team, because I just think it's. We were just talking about it off air, like Craig Anderson, very much invested in Kelly and Scotland. That's tiring. Absolutely tiring. That's
a man who loves his football.
Yes.
But a man who's comfortable in his own skin, and a man who can cope with all the. Because I was just like, I was talking to a friend, and obviously we're watching Hibs, and that I was like, I can't remember I watched a game where the team that I was supporting didn't lose a goal in the last 3 or 4 minutes. It was like even into the last season, into the Euros, and then into this season. And it's absolutely non-stop to the point that you just sit and wait for it to happen, as I did in this game. But yeah, I did enjoy, but it is like that. It's like I can only really go full in on Scotland when it's going well. And I did really enjoy it. I did enjoy that period. I enjoyed the unifying moment. But yeah, now it's like the tiring part I'm seeing people moaning about lineups. You know, that's like fuck. I don't know if I've got in me to go again with that. And to come back finally to your question, I found that for this game it made more sense. That sort of team, it made a lot more sense playing with sort of like all these guys that are not really wingers, but they're good. They're more than happy to come in. We all know their work rate's super high with Christie and McGinn. Obviously, McGinn's got at times handy for a goal. For Scotland, well, Dykes up front, especially in these games when we play the better team, he normally comes to the fore, which he absolutely did. I'll come on to that probably more a bit later. But yeah, I felt the team, it made more sense in this game. But these are, and take away the Germany game, for example, which was obviously rabbits and headlights stuff, and it didn't work out at all. But normally this is Clarke's bread and butter. This is where like you've got faith in what Clarke has to offer. So playing the tried and trusted and guys who are comfortable making the game narrow, guys who work their socks off, guys who better, because this is something everyone needs to remember about the whole debate about wide players. The struggle is that when we had this chat during the Euros, is that you want to, sometimes you have to play players who aren't as good as other players because it helps the team be a functioning football team. And this is kind of where we're getting to with Scotland, is that you're maybe going to have to play guys. I know they're not as good as these guys that are all playing in the English Premier League, but it just means they're all these guys that play in the English Premier League, they're all the same types of players. So, and I think some of the work where, I know McGinn had a in the Poland game, apparently it was better. I didn't see it personally, but
disagree on that side. Again, I thought it was very meh in the Poland game.
Yeah, and last night is for the first. I mean, he had a good period after we can see the equaliser. But before that, I thought he was appalling.
Yeah,
but again, it's like maybe there needs to be harder decisions you make, and you have to play players that I know aren't as good, but the wide players, obviously, we need them to make this team work. But last night, I certainly wasn't against lineup. I thought it made perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this, you look at the subs bench, and you think, right, who's in the way that he wants to line up? Who would you play instead? Like, who would you switch out? And yeah, maybe a case for Ryan Porteous instead of Grant Hanley after his mistake on Thursday. But again, I think you're probably splitting hairs with that one. Look, the way the team played. I thought, you mentioned the Germany game. I thought that's exactly how Steve Clarke probably wanted to play against Germany. And I know it was a slightly different formation, but it was, and he didn't have Dykes there, so he didn't have that out ball. But to basically play quite a narrow midfield and send him wide, and where it's going to be less dangerous. And we see that's kind of what happened with the game. Albeit that there was a wee bit of a, oh fuck, we're 1-0 up. How did that happen? Element to it. I don't think, obviously, didn't always want to score. This nonsense, well, you scored too early. Never too early to score a goal at any time. But it was, I don't think that would have been...
But you hardly ever score.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you can't say, oh, no, I'll take a goal 20 minutes later, please. But I do think there would be an element of maybe not an expectation to score so early, and then that kind of has a knock-on effect of how the team went on to play. But kind of before we look at that reaction to going 1-0 up, the goal itself was there was elements of it what I just loved. Firstly, you've got Lyndon Dykes, a ball up to Lyndon Dykes, he wins a foul. We'll come on to speak about Dykes in depth later on. And then it was actually pretty well worked free kick in that, okay, maybe the first free kick didn't go to plan, but John McGinn did really, really well just to flick it on and rather than head it into the box, but kind of keep it alive, knocking it back. And then the cross from Kenny McLean was absolutely spot on. It was like the cross version of his goal in Norway, and Scott McTominay does what Scott McTominay does.
Oh, catches it, flushes anything, bullets it right into the net. But it's a really well worked goal. It's really tidy. We had a set piece just before it where we just rolled the ball into Christie in the box as well. And for some reason he managed to get himself in a position where he was crossing. even though he got himself like the original the pass looked like we could have really got a shot away. So Austin McPhee coming to the fore once again after I think there was a really good set piece for Villa as well recently. I saw someone talking about it. I didn't see it, but yeah. So again,
what a gig, set piece coach.
Because it'd be fun ultimately. Because you're getting to do plays, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's more like American sport, and you've got it's like you've got all in front of you, and it's like you can be creative, and it's all just in a 10-second sort of situation. So I feel like you don't have to think about anything else. You don't have to think about any of the outside noise of playing a full game of football. You just have this little moment, and you try and put a play together,
and it's pretty controlled as well.
I think it'd be great fun. Aye, but it was a great goal, and then obviously, then they obviously came on to us, but they were trying. I mean, Ralston obviously takes a lot of stick, and he was going up against Leao, but it worked really well having Christie over on that side, because after that goal, then everything sort of like Portugal were really coming at us. But I thought like Christie supported them really well. But Leao's still going to get away from you. He's still going to get shots away. It's about trying to make the percentage chance of him scoring a goal quite less, if you understand, or setting up a goal. You're never going to make it perfect and stop him all the time. It's about making it so when he gets his pass away, he's not really properly set, or there's bodies getting in the way and stuff like that. And I do think should comment on that. What that was clearly thought of down that side. And Christie and Ralston done pretty well against Leao.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very difficult player to. I would imagine he's quite a frustrating player to watch. I remember seeing him when I was at the Napoli AC Milan game last season, and then watching him today. He's like he's got absolutely everything, but again, he's just like an elite level inconsistent winger, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how did you feel that the reaction was to the going 1-0 up? I can understand, like, naturally just how the game dynamic works, that you naturally drop off and you hold your line, you play defensively. My view was rather than kind of just sit in, ride the pressure for a wee bit, they sat in and just kind of just got deeper and deeper, and it just frustrating that because we'll come on to talk about it, the reaction after Portugal equalised, but they didn't. There was moments where we played some really nice passages of play, but didn't do enough, and then didn't keep it for a long spell. So it was just coming back and coming back.
Yeah, and that's the thing. With a team like ours, where frankly we all know the defence is quite weak, so you get caught in this two-way street. Like what you're saying there is that the midfield wants to try and protect them when they're playing a team of this ilk, and then it ends up you've got midfielders that are basically just becoming like a back seven and back eight because they're going in between them, and then then you want to be able to keep the ball as well to give them a breather, because they're under the cosh so much. So it was a bit annoying, because like you're saying, one thing I will say is that during these bits, and especially after the goal we conceded, I think we saw a bit of the old Scotland come out, which always the bit that probably excited me the most out of the whole Clarke sort of era, is that one-touch passing coming out for defence when you're under pressure, because teams press us. But I mean, we've got good. I think even though I know went through bad form now, I do think there is a bit more respect, sort of Europe-wide, that when you come and play Scotland, that they've got they know every player, like give or take, if you're at a team, so you're not playing against mugs at all. But that was always a bit that really excited me when we really got going, was teams would try and pressure us, didn't make mistakes, and we'd actually pass through them, and then we'd be able to counter-attack.
The Denmark goal, the goal against Denmark at Hampden.
Yeah, absolutely great in this. And there was elements of seeing that again last night. And like I said, it broke down a few times when they were, because we were just under too much pressure, but the attempts to do it were there. And I think it was really deliberate, because McGinn made quite a few mad decisions coming out with the ball. One where he kicked it back into the box, when he almost dinked it back into the box, and they absolutely mad. And another one where he tried to dribble away and got tackled in the first half. But that tells me that it was discussed and about getting back to being brave like that to try and, because when you play these teams, that's the opportunity. That's how you can break forward. And we've got the energy in the squad and the fitness in the squad to actually make that a reality. It was frustrating after. I think we got too deep, and like I said, in terms of where the midfielders were sitting when they were in a line. But what the attempts to do were like going back to when we were a brave team, which was always the case that we had before it started to go tits up with the friendlies before the Euros.
I suppose, and that's the big thing. If it's hard to know without being in the inside to know whether that is an instruction of Clarke, is to be so deep, or if it's one of those where he's wanting the players to be more assertive in possession and be brave and take control of the game and have prolonged periods of possession. But if that's just not working within the game, we've seen it. You can see it in league football. You can see it in any football where what a manager wants is not what actually happens on the pitch, and then the players kind of just like it's just like the momentum and the dynamics of the game. The players give up possession and just like they kind of just settle and sit into a shape and just get deeper and deeper. If that's whether that's an instruction from Clarke or whether that's just the way that the game plays out, it's hard to know. But like I said, I want and I feel that with the players we've got in the squad, for the team to be more brave and probably take a wee bit more risk. I know it's difficult against Portugal, and I think it was probably more. It's probably something we'll come on to talk about with regards to Poland and Hungary, where elements of Poland were decent, but Poland were there for the taking. Hungary as well, so it's a far more risky to do that at Portugal. But I do think that I would like this team, whether it's through the manager or the players, to have more belief that they can go a bit more toe-to-toe and play higher up the pitch. For example, if we went 1-0 up again against a team, play 10 yards further up, because we'll come on to talk about Dykes, is that when you got him involved, he was making things happen, he was occupying defenders, but then it becomes so difficult for him if you've got a line of 4 on the box, a line of 4 2 yards ahead, and then he's coming in and behind the... and he's behind the ball as well. It makes it so much more difficult for him and the team to get out.
Let's just come to Dykes now. I mean, because obviously there was times he came back and he made tackles as well. That he came so deep, like you're talking about. But I thought it was tremendous performance. Like I thought he was terrific last night. He won everything, and he's going up against. We're talking about elite centre half. It's not Portugal are a team where it's like everything. It's like France. It's not just that they have loads of good attackers. It's like every single guy on the park plays for one of the best teams in the world. And Diaz didn't like it. And I don't know, maybe the idea was, don't go in and challenge Dykes, because obviously they don't have anyone up there to support him anyway. So you can let him win the ball and we'll take it anyway. You don't run risk. But he managed to entice them in, risking fouls. He won a lot of fouls. And I didn't think Diaz looked particularly comfortable with Dykes at all. And Dykes was making something out of nothing a lot. Like the headers were all, he done loads of these little passing headers that were absolutely perfect. Weighted really well so the player would have time, so they would hang in the air long enough for the player to actually get into the position to take on the ball. And it's just like remembering that despite what everyone says, that there's still tons of fucking value in Lyndon Dykes in a Scotland shirt, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if people didn't realise that after the Euros, and there's no hope that this, as one member of the Terrace podcast refers to him as Birmingham's third choice striker, that he is, there's a place for him in this Scotland national team. And especially in games like that where he relieves so much pressure. I know there's been, I think Craig Anderson mentioned that it's like a cyclical conversation that we have around Dykes maybe every 3 to 6 months. And I've been guilty in the past thinking, oh no, I think the Scotland team have reached a level where they're past Lyndon Dykes. No, I don't think so. I think that was a naive view, ignorant view, that it's important to have someone of his skill set. You also have to look at, especially how I like to think of Scottish football identity. He's a striker who I think has a place in Scottish football, has a place in Scottish football in the national team, and he makes life difficult. Sometimes he can be off the boil, but he's just one of those strikers where you kind of gravitate towards. He can make things happen, and it's one of those where you just can't measure it. That when he pulls on a Scotland shirt, he just manages to come up with big moments.
I think it's just like we've got like McTominay's probably like that as well. I mean, McTominay's a really, really good player, and I think he's getting better. And I think he was obviously, even a season that he had at Man United last season, proved a lot of people wrong. I think he's getting to the stage where people are starting to understand him a bit better as a player. And I mean this, and like Scotland has done that for him, has allowed him to be more understood. Because I mean, he's went, but in club and international football, it's like he was like a nomad, wasn't he? Really, there was no real place for him. People knew he was good. People knew he had like a toolbox that you wanted to be able to use, but nobody really knew how to get the absolute best out of him. And then as the years have gone on, I mean, what was that? 10 goals and 17 caps or something like that he got last night, which is phenomenal. And it's like, and it's dragged on from, it wasn't just the qualifying campaign. He got the bloody goal. He got the one real goal we got at the Euros, and then he's back in doing it, and he got that goal disallowed against Poland. Then he's banging in that head there. Now it's just showing that qualifying period wasn't just an anomaly. I think is where we're coming to now.
He was obviously, we were talking about it, you didn't see much of the Poland game, but he was, honestly, it was like one of the best individual performances from a Scotland player I can remember, certainly the last few years. I know he's come up with big moments, massive moments, and you look at the Spain game, for example. But this was like an all-round dominant performance, and it was one where you just it was just hard not to notice him. And again, I thought there was elements of that against Portugal that every time you got the ball, you kind of relaxed because you just maybe at times relaxed because you knew he would make the right choice. And then other times you would be anticipating something or being excited because he's on the ball when he can make something happen. I don't pay much attention to what it's the English Premier League, but I always get the sense that he was kind of always written off at Man United. They were looking at like moving on or have someone play ahead of him, but he would always find his way back into the team. Probably, if I'm right, that says a hell of a lot about him. Really excited to see how him and Billy Gilmour will get on at Napoli. But these two guys should be very much the core of the side, going the core of Scotland national team, or part of the spine of the Scotland national team for the next 10 years, maybe over exaggerating it there, but certainly
Gilmour especially, because I mean McTominay's biggest issue is there's a lot of his game's physicality, so age might catch up with him as a style of player that he is, even though I wouldn't be surprised if he just turns into like a striker when he hit like 33. That really
like maybe not like
maybe not for Napoli, but you know what I mean? But he might have to drop down. Or even he stays at big clubs, but he becomes like just a go-to guy in a crunch. And he could easily do that for Scotland. But
he'll go from the attacking midfielder to as a number 9, and then the last 2 years of his career will be a centre back.
yeah. I mean, what the most wild career anyone's ever had. And then but Billy Gilmour, I mean, obviously just his style of play is always going to lend itself that you don't really see where that's going to be a problem with age a lot. He might not be able to wriggle out of the tight areas quite as much when he gets a bit older, but I think there's always going to be a place for a deep-lying guy who can dictate the game to level. And I thought he was brilliant against Portugal again. It's just that they're just like and the problem for Clarke is it just screams like, what the fuck are you doing in that Germany game?
Yes!
I'll never understand it. Yeah. I was furious at the time. And I've never actually been like that for a Scotland game. But I was really like, because I'd done the pod before the Germany game, literally the day before I was leaving with Fowler in my house, before we were going to get our flights to that the next day. And I was talking, Fowler brought up the fact that he could see him not playing, and he wasn't going to agree to it. And I hadn't even fucking considered that he hadn't played better than when he said it. And then because I had a build up to it thinking, Yeah, it's possible he might not play. I just couldn't believe why you wouldn't want the guy who can hold up the ball in tight areas. And he done it there again in Portugal, and he was even driving forward at stuff like that. And he's just a tremendous player who's going to get better. I guess Craig Anderson always says, because I really listen, as you were saying, Craig Anderson with Scotland, I really listen. I think he's really knowledgeable about it. But with Gilmour, it's defensively and his tackling's maybe not that great. So, I mean, you can still see that Gilmour's going to get better. And the amount of hits that Gilmour's taken over his career already, and quite a young career, where he's had to people have questioned him and managers haven't really understood him and all that. It's like you feel like that could have set him in really, really good stead going forward. And he was absolutely, but especially after we conceded the equaliser, I thought Gilmour was great.
Yeah, he was absolutely superb, and he always is. He's not always superb, but you always enjoy kind of watching him and how he approaches the game. And yeah, that Clarke decision in Germany, it's just again, we'll come on to talk about Clarke a wee bit later on, but it's decisions like that. Just like what the fuck are you doing? There's like, and it's one of those where every fan can see it. Yeah, play Gilmour because he's really, really good. Okay, you might need to take him off after 60, 65 minutes. You're better at that than, we maybe bring him on for the last 30, 35 minutes. But it's things like, it's decisions like that get people's backup, is because everyone recognises just how good a player he is, and he doesn't play him, which is a frustration.
In terms of defending, other players that I was really impressed with, we've talked for a lot here. We've not even got on to the Gunn and McKenna show.
So I was just going to come on to this, the first goal if you want.
Go for it.
I am going to try and not now. I'm going to try and share my screen. This will be rubbish for people who are on podcasts, but I want to kind of illustrate people who are watching on YouTube.
We'll try and get people that can't watch us on YouTube anyway, so here's the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Add an element that you're missing out.
I'll share my screen and I'll talk.
I'm nervous. We're going to talk through the goal live on the screen. Here we fucking go.
Here we go. Click on that one. There we go. So Tony can see it. I'm hoping everyone can see it.
Look at this, man.
Look at this. So basically, so the Angus McGunn goal, Angus Gunn, making him more Scottish. So a lot of people will look at his just his shot stopping, which has been questionable during his Scotland career, but I've got it on the screen here. So as we can see, as Bruno Fernandes hits the shot, there are 9 outfield players in the box for Scotland, which again goes back to what we were saying about just how deep Scotland were and kind of how frustrating that was. And this was just
during this period, especially the second half.
Just just after the half time, you're thinking, right, let's get out. Let's we've survived that first half. Let's get out and be a bit more brave. They didn't do that, so he's obviously got a lot of bodies in front of him. But then I have highlighted how much space he's got on the left hand side of his goal. So that's where the ball goes. This is something that I've watched. So I went back and watched the goals that he's conceded for Scotland, and 2 or 3 times, I think it was one of the goals against Germany. His footwork is slow. That's one thing kind of really noticed about him. He's a big guy and he covers a lot of goal, but I think he's quite slow at moving across his goal. And then we can see here that he is so far over to his right, as Tony will be able to see, there's a massive, massive amount of space on his left-hand side. See if he had taken a step to his left to set himself, which would have been a much better position. But should have been in the position, because Bruno Fernandes is quite central, that he would have saved that no problem. But because he's so far across to his right, that when he does dive and he doesn't get a good attempt at saving it, he then what happens is a kind of consequence of that.
And that's the thing, you see that Bruno Fernandes, so much to aim at, it's not even a good shot. He doesn't catch it particularly well.
It's in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty terrible effort.
And then, and like you're saying with Gunn, the save, it would have actually been if he took that step over, going down, going down in slow motion, and just catching it in your body. Like it would have been like that basic a save. And it's the same with Scott McKenna, and the fact that I would go as far as saying it was Gunn and McKenna's best games in Scotland shirts.
Yeah.
I mean, someone could maybe prove me wrong about McKenna, and I would happily listen. But I was so impressed with him. I thought he was looking really great. And obviously, it's been taking McKenna years to get to this stage where, like he's probably first choice. McKenna's another one that's had to fight. I think his size. People think he's a big lumbering idiot. In fact, he played for Aberdeen. In fact, if you're Aberdeen Hearts or Hibs, there's always a question of how good are you really? Like if you come through there. And I think it takes time for you to fight that back as well as you're going. But I thought he was tremendous last night, obviously in a game that quite suits his skill set when you're playing that sort of deep defensive role. It's just a shame that I would say it's both their best games, but they were both sort of like quite... McKenna's one, it's not quite as clear cut as Gunn there, but like they're both still like at fault for goals in the game.
Can I shock you, Tony? I've got the second goal as well. I want to highlight if you give me 2 seconds. So this is the first one. So it's one, I'm not going to show McKenna because everyone knows that what was the issue with McKenna. He is too busy concentrating on Cristiano Ronaldo. So, but I wanted to pick out Tony Ralston. I know he's an easy figure to pick on, and again, I thought he had over the piece pretty solid game, especially defensively. He's used to the ball. When we talked about the kind of one touch, the one touch passing, the first time passing, and those movements, it breaks down when it goes to him. It's not as fluid when it goes to him, but that's his kind of limitations. But when we look at the goal, so I'm sharing my screen again, and what is on the screen at the moment is, so basically Nuno Mendes has got past Lewis Morgan, and then Tony Ralston's on basically the edge of the box, and you expect him in that position to, right, Nuno Mendes has got past Morgan's still putting pressure on him. There's no threat behind or to the side of Tony Ralston. So Tony Ralston is there on his own. Just what I would like to see, like of Tony Ralston, is to be more aggressive. Go out and help Morgan, make it 2-1, and don't let him get the crossing. But he stays, and then I need to, I'll stop sharing and then share a different screen. So he stays, just watching the play develop, and then when it does come to Tony Ralston making a move, all he does is move back the way. So he doesn't actually go out and engage Nuno Mendes, which he should do, because then that makes it very difficult for the cross. He gives him space. So all he's done is drop back 3 yards, whereas with Morgan still pressing Nuno Mendes, and it makes it easier for him to get the ball in. The cross isn't great, and then it is a goal. So while McKenna was got a lot of the stick for letting Ronaldo go, I do think it could have been stopped at the source by Tony Ralston being more aggressive. And that's kind of his game.
Finally, he got away with getting called out. Finally, and then Joel's brother.
That's his. I think that's more of his. I think that's probably, if you look at what Ralston is, that's kind of his positive, or his is to be an aggressive defender.
The bricky. I mean, it's all part of the name, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was great, Joel. Like Jamie Carragher without the spitting.
That you know.
So I still feel really frustrating when it comes to that. Is that you play well, it's tough. You're playing these good teams, and the goals are like you're saying, you can see who's at fault. I know there's always someone at fault for a goal, but it's still frustrating because Gunn made some absolute ridiculous saves later on, and obviously he had the one for Leao in the first half. He made a couple of double saves. That one where he got up and took it off the possibly Felix's head.
Yeah.
As Felix a bit ahead it in. It was all great, and Gunn was making himself look really big, and he was getting down earlier. The one for Leao, that's a tough, the strong wrist to do that, which is obviously the polar opposite of what happened at Bruno Fernandes. So what's horrible is that you're looking at this could have been a night where Gunn maybe
zero
builds into the shirt, if you know what I mean. It feels really confident and maybe answers back a couple of critics that he has. But then there's still that bit hanging over him. And it's the same with Scotland. This could have been such a big result for Clarke. It could have been, and it really could have helped alleviate some of the strain on a lot of people with a decent performance. So it's sad that we never managed to get something there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, you look at, found the reaction interesting on social media last night, in that there was I felt like there was two camps. There's a camp of, this was a really encouraging performance. This is real hope for the future, that there's real potential here. And then on the other side, it was, what is it, one win in 14 or 1 win in 17, and all that includes friendly games as well. And people viewing as like still not good enough results wise, and results are very important. You don't get many friendlies to kind of experiment, and you see how it feeds into the World Cup qualification, and how important the Nations League is within that, because the runner-up in World Cup qualifying groups, I believe, don't enter the playoffs. Scotland is at the same time could drop from a pot 1 team to a pot 3 team. So there were so many different facets to it, that I can see it from so many two different angles. In that, I thought it was again a relatively positive performance. There was things to be positive about. There was things to take encouragement from, but at the same time, the end result is another defeat with mistakes, kind of questions over certain elements of it. And I suppose, where do you think Scotland stand just now? What do you think of Clarke in general? Do you feel he's getting the best out of the side? Where is your head now with the Scotland national team and the direction they're heading?
To defend Clarke a bit, it's like he's now, you pay for a bit with your own success as well. Now he's having to sort of like, he's trying to change us again. So he used his own phrase, the evolution instead of revolution. And obviously we come into that about obviously the lack of shots and creating chance in the Euros. He's trying to do that now with trying to maybe change the shape a bit and give us more options. Although my argument would be is that we already done this. We already went through this in the Nations League last time, and he done it and it went well. And then he bottled to use it when the time came in Germany when we lost Tierney. So he'd already created having the two shapes, and he decided against using it. And he's obviously now doing it here. But it's now we've done it the last time when we were playing weaker teams. So we tried to create that sort of like extra new way of playing. And now he's going to try and do it sort of again with new styles of players, but doing it against absolute best teams. I mean, Poland are, but Croatia and Portugal were our top level teams that he's going to have to. And then when we go to the World Cup, we're likely going to have at least a couple of big teams that we're going to have to play against. And to defend Clarke again, it's he was thinking about more than himself, and he was thinking about the future when he took those friendly games on after Euro qualification. And it was quite a brave thing to do. And it was obviously, people will say it was stupid because it maybe helped erode confidence going into a tournament. But I would still say his heart's in the right place, and he's not thinking about himself. If you're thinking about yourself, just take easier games as friendlies to, so you don't get in this position now when you've got 1 win in 14. Because that's was always something that could have happened when you've moved into the top flight of the Nations League. You're about to go to a European Euros finals. So basically, you're about to go on a batch. If you play good teams at that, you're going to go on a batch of teams where, like, the weakest teams you're going to be playing are like Poland and Hungary, who are good. They're decent enough. I know people slag off Poland, but you know what I mean? They're still decent. They still qualify for nearly every single tournament. Basically, what they've been doing is what we're trying to do, ultimately. So it's like, that's a guy who thinks about the national team. That's a guy who's thinking about the future. It's a guy who's trying to help make us better. And then he might end up paying for those decisions with his job. It's ultimately up to them. But he is now going to have to, after that, he is going to have to start, as I said, these players have to be given a shot in the wide areas. We have to see what we can do. Because I think a lot of people said with Poland, people were impressed with Gold and with Doak a bit, and it gave us another dimension to our game. And he's going to have to start creating room for them to maybe start some games, get an idea of how to do it. But again, a lot of them, it is hands-tied stuff. I mean, I was like complaining about Ralston. But yeah, the alternative is Max Johnson. He doesn't really get a game in Austria, so how good is he? But my argument would be, I mean, we already know Ralston isn't good enough. So, I mean, what harm is it in trying to get another player ready? But obviously, it's just a problem position now because Hickey, who knows what's going to happen? Hickey could be finished. He could certainly be finished at the level that we would want him to be at. We've no idea. 2 years out with a unique hamstring injury doesn't sound great. So yeah, Clarke, I'm still happy to go with it. I think he's bought a bit of time, and as I said, I don't think I like the way that it's not, because I get pissed off with self-preservation in managers. I think it's a constant theme, and I get it because of the culture we've created in football as football fans and journalists. Is like everyone's heads on the chopping block in 2 minutes, so everyone has to do self-preservation as a manager. But I think Clarke's tried not to do that. So I think even if this Nations League doesn't do too well, I think if he's shown that he's happy to try and develop some new players, he's already tried to add this new shape. Let's see how he gets on in those World Cup qualifiers. I think he's earned the opportunity to do it. That's my personal opinion.
My view, it's not really changed since the end of the Euros, in that he can't knock him for the job he's done, taking us to 2 championships, albeit it's got to the point where they are far easier to qualify for, but that shouldn't take away from the achievement because we still weren't qualifying for them before. But
you also have to say that the second qualifier was like a real qualifier.
Yes,
that would have been a qualification at any time.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely.
So I like that one has to be that can't be demeaned or diluted. That one is my personal opinion.
No, and I suppose the way I look at it is that the Euro 2020 was rubbish, disaster, and my fear was that if he didn't learn from that, and the exact same thing didn't happen both times, but there were definitely things where didn't improve.
Really fucking similar
for the second one, and then it was just like, right, so what have we progressed? What have we learned here? And you have to credit him because he has taken Scotland to a point where the expectation level was higher and higher, but he should be judged against that expectation level. And in two tournaments, he's fallen way below that expectation level. And I still look at it. Yes, players weren't in their best condition. They're moving, but come the summer, there wasn't massive amounts of depth. Lost a couple of key players. That's all fair enough, but I still didn't think Hungary. They were shit. Yeah, in comparison to a decent option, but in terms of that, just beat Hungary, and you couldn't tell me that Scotland squad wasn't better than Hungary, or the Scotland team wasn't better than Hungary, and it was just all a bit kind of safe. And it's just my concern is get to World Cup, and the same thing happens again.
Why bother? Why bother? Yeah, Duncan Mackay was right all those years ago.
But but then you look at elements of the Poland game, and where there was some really nice play. I liked the energy about it, and just like, right, do something. Didn't create nearly enough. And then the Portugal game, there were some really nice elements of the Portugal game. There's things to really be positive about, encouraged about. But again, it just like want the team to be a bit more brave, to be a bit more right. We've got very good players here. Let's show we've got very good players, and at least like not expecting them to go and play Portugal off the pitch. What I'm saying is, I don't want to see a Scotland team with Billy Gilmour and John McGinn and Scott McTominay just sit 2 banks of 4 in front of the box.
Yeah, there's no need to. That what was annoying is after that goal the equaliser is that we really played well after that for about 15 minutes, where we took control of the game, and they didn't look comfortable at all. Ronaldo's going wild, and I know his was a bit of time wasting, but we were keeping the ball well. We were moving into the box. We probably had a chance where like McTominay shot where he could have cut across and probably would have created a really, really good chance on goal. And then we took, and what's frustrating about that is they've just scored and they're at home and we're a weaker team than them. You would think in theory the momentum would swing and they would come on to us. You know, like the way that you were describing earlier about sometimes the manager can't get them to do what they do because naturally momentum and how it works, teams just get scared and they just move in and the other team just get taking charge of the ball and you know you can see it, but no one can stop it. And it doesn't matter if I shout 10 yards further forward, it doesn't matter. They're just not going to be able to do it. And I think that does happen a lot more than what people think. But the fact that we were able to do it after they just scored tells me we probably could have done it earlier. Because that's like probably the most difficult time to take charge was at that stage. I would argue, and we managed to do that quite easily.
I suppose the two. It's gone from being really happy with the direction Scotland have progressed under Steve Clarke to what he's delivered to now a period of frustration that we've not kicked on more and done a wee bit more. And that's just, again, managers, there's a longevity aspect of managers that everyone says about 3 years. Maybe Steve Clarke, that's as far as he can take Scotland to this bit, and then someone else comes in and able to right, this is a squad and take it further on. But that's not saying like this is not me saying Clarke's a terrible manager. I'm just wondering if he is the right manager.
I think that happens. Clubs do really well sometimes. Moving managers on, it's like at the right time, even if they've done well. Like you're saying, because that they can see where the evolution of the team is. And this manager, like you say, maybe is too safe. He won't. It's like just what you're saying. Going to the World Cup, we're going to need to have more to our game than maybe what Clarke's willing to allow it to develop into. There's going to have to be more risk taken for us to hit knockouts in a game, especially if we still don't have a great striker and a great goalkeeper. And that means that you're going to have to do it more. You know what I mean? You can't rely on a match winner and you can't rely on the goalie keeping you in it. So that means that it's all about style. We have to earn absolutely fucking everything that we get at Scotland. And that maybe when it comes down to is that I think in this Scotland, the style of team, maybe the manager, there's more to a manager than maybe another team, like the Wales team with Bale in it. You just felt like fucking anyone could have been doing that. I think because it was quite an easy to identify what to do, and the players were all in on it, so it worked, and it worked really, really well. We can't do that because we don't have that style of player. So the manager is coming, the style, the ethos. And Clarke, he doesn't always help himself because he does the quite dour thing, and he was quite fun when we were going well, and he was getting on with the journalists. Now every time he telling the guy to name the fans he spoke to. And all this shit, and it's just like, come on. That's
there's definitely an arrogance to it, and just the view that he didn't think he needed to have a debrief with the press, where he'd speak to or even do anything with the Scottish national team and speak to the fans after the Euro 2024, where it was really, really poor. Not to do that, and it's just like that's where I remember I went to the Nutmeg event, and I was questioning like kind of Steve Clarke's persona and personality. It's like it's not great. It's not a good personality persona when things start to go bad, because it makes it easier for fans to get it gets people back up, and when things are not going back, it's used as a stick to beat you with.
Yeah, I was speaking to Chris, and he was talking about like Derek McInnes, like and coming in, and he made a good point. He was just saying that McInnes before the Kilmarnock European games, he got them really, really buzzed. You could tell like he's been in the interviews before it, he was galvanising the fans and stuff. And maybe the idea is that we've got quite a relatively unique in football, is that we do have there's a big core of support for the Scotland national team. You know, you got the Tartan Army. That isn't the same at every international team that has that, where people are properly maybe more into their international team than their club. So there's something to galvanise there. There's a weapon to use in terms of the fans that possibly Clarke doesn't bother with, and he doesn't play up where he could get people. You know, you get the Ali's Army stuff. And it's like a middle ground between that and that, where you could get people a bit more at fever pitch, and that could help, and you could use it. You could weaponize that, especially when you're kicking into the Nations League and stuff like that. I mean, that you could get people to try and like get people going. So yeah, there's I'm talking myself out with Clarke here as well.
Just on Clarke, I think the next, I don't think anything will change. I think it'll be given the World Cup qualifiers. So what I say really doesn't matter. But I think the next 4 games are kind of big in just solidifying the direction that Scotland are going in. If they can take the positives from these 2 games and have positive results in the last 4 games, because Scotland definitely have the quality to beat Croatia and Portugal, and Poland. We saw the Euros, the most recent Euros, that all 3 they weren't amazing.
They're all fallible. They can all be got at.
Yeah, all we got. You look at Portugal's team and the way they can move the ball, and the way they can move with the ball is fantastic. So they're an elite team, but at Hampden Park, we've seen it before. Scotland can make it really difficult for teams. Croatia and Poland. Scotland can go to Croatia and win. Scotland can go to Poland and win. Scotland can win Croatia. So there's that other element of it where you want to see these positive results in the last 4 games, but also just to see how he develops the team and the style. I know he came out and spoke about Ben Doak, and I can understand that he's not played a lot of first team minutes. And then he's like wanting to protect him, but just sometimes I just look at Ben Doak, the type of player is, just play him.
That's what I say.
You play him, and then even if it's an hour, and he kind of just, you let him.
It's a player we need, and we simply need a player like that. So some timing isn't always of the essence, and you have to, the team, like as I said earlier when I was first talking earlier, to bring it full circle. There's elements you need to make a successful team. And we don't really have wide players. We don't have, mainly it's not the people who can fucking dribble. Never mind like pacing. We can, as a game, that means that everything you do, you have to earn. You have to pass round teams. You have to create chances that way, which isn't always ideal. That's hard to do. Normally a team has a go-to guy who can, because you don't have to beat one guy and then someone else moves, then there's space. You know, that is that simple. So we have to get, like, this is why, I mean, anyone who watched or listened, the Harvey Barnes drum I was banging, it wasn't because I fucking love Harvey Barnes. It's because it's just like, right, that's the guy we need. That's exactly the style of player we need. He's the one that could possibly be persuaded and has the skill set that we really lack. I don't know where that is now. In terms of, because Barnes was still quite evasive about it, I think the last time he spoke. So if you're not going to be able to get an element like that, like what you've done with Dykes and with Adams, then I'm just going to have to be Doak, because someone has to do it.
Are you going to set him back or ruin his career by actually giving him first team minutes and playing him against Poland or Croatia? He's not going to be. It's a Nations League. Gives a fuck. Just play him.
It's actually a really good place to give Doak to get him. Maybe the worry is again that he's just out for a year. Give or take.
Absolutely.
So that period this one here, drip feed the minutes. I would have them on earlier against Portugal because John McGinn had run his race as well.
It brings it back to with Clarke and what he's talked about. Yeah, and it brings it back to safety, overly cautious. Sometimes just like, right, okay, he's come back from an injury, but bring it on for the last 5 minutes last night. Whoop-de-doo.
We need. People saying he's not had any minutes in his legs that we were talking about. I was like, well, let's fucking give him them then. We'll do it then. We have to do it. That's it. Because we need them more than anyone else. It's like the club teams can all have other alternatives. We don't have anyone who can dribble, and a football team needs someone who can dribble. Because obviously, that's the way we play. Tierney runs up with Robertson, and that causes chaos. And then one of them, because it's someone coming from a different area. And Tierney can dribble, it's not like Silky, but he can drive. And him and Robertson, that's what creates those elements where the ball just farts in off someone when the ball's bouncing about the place, which is the main way we score, let's be honest.
And I enjoyed Fowler and Craig on the Friday's podcast were talking about it, or they recorded it. Friday's podcast. They were talking about it. They came across with a lot of logic and sense, but they were talking about how Doak, he got into position, he should have crossed it, but he turned back on himself. I was like, that's fine, but it's not as if he's taken away from someone who has
We've done this on different.
going to deliver a good cross, because no one was delivering a good cross, and then just eventually he will cross it, and he will do something, he'll dribble it, he'll do something.
Yeah, there's more point of trying to develop the guy who's got the other bit that's harder, which is dribbling past everyone, and developing him when to release the ball and when to cross it. But did he go to Middlesbrough? Did that happen? Did he go on loan to Middlesbrough? He surely went on loan to fucking someone. Everyone in their dug wanted him. And by what I heard, I think there was like seven. Aye, so like he's gone there. So the minutes are going to come there, and the minutes are going to come with Scotland. And it's just like sometimes you have to rush development. Because, like I said, and I know this is going to sound like a banging drum. We lack. Ben Doak doesn't have to be the player that we actually hope he is. Do you know what I mean? To be extremely handy for Scotland. Do you know, like, he could just be if he's a Premier League level dribbler, never mind like a Liverpool or a Champions League or anything like that. If he's a Premier League level dribbler, like maybe Harvey Barnes, if he hit that level, even, that's more than enough for what we need. And we need that, and we just don't have any other option. And
it's not as if he's 16 and we're just giving him his debut. He's almost 19 and he's already played for the Celtic and Liverpool first team, two of the most demanding clubs in the world.
Well,
let's not play him in the Nations League, because that might ruin his development.
Wearing knob screaming at him. He's not going to be arsed his fucking up. He's blowing a jaw. So yeah, I think so. This is I think there just needs to. I wasn't against. I thought Poland. I thought was a bit safe. I understood the team against Portugal, but yeah, we're going to have to. He needs to give minutes to these other guys, because if he, as he calls it, the evolution of the team, he has to do it or he's fucked. It's like, or the same thing is going to happen. The mistakes have been made, the safety done, so he has to do it. Otherwise, if we go into the next World Cup because he's saying 2 years is what I read for Doak. Well, 2 years is the World Cup. So if he's barely played then we've got the same problem with no drill. So this 2 years now is Doak's going to have to play, because rightly or wrongly, there's no really. Lewis Morgan's not going to be the dribbler, is he? He's not. Conway's not really going to do it. So I think that's you've only got one option, and you're hoping, and hopefully maybe someone else bursts on the scene. Like I'm saying, we quote unquote sign someone from another country to do that job for us.
Right, before we finish, almost wrapped up, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. Imagine being 39-year-old man and doing that daft celebration.
It's just
jog back to your half, shake a couple of hands, pat a couple of bums and grow up.
It's just this, it's clearly like he was going mental when he came on. Like he was clear, the gesticulating stuff and screaming at people.
The wag of the finger.
Yeah, it's clearly, it's a man's, and this, or the stuff in the media, about the 1,000 goals and all of that. This is just a man desperately trying to stay relevant. It's all ego. It's nothing else. The celebration is because he's in Saudi Arabia now and he knows nobody's watching. Nobody's really watching. So when he comes into this thing with Portugal, he's hanging on to this gig at Portugal with dear life, because this is where he gets to stay. Like, he's not quit for the next World Cup. He's going to be, 41, 42. He's not going to be good enough. He's going to be fit enough. He's not really going to be able to do it. But he just refused to do it because he just needs this relevance, and this game looked like he was playing in a World Cup semi-final with his behaviour and his style, and that's because he's absolutely fucking desperate to stay relevant. One of those guys you really wonder, he might be one of the players who really, really struggles with retirement more than anyone else. Like serious men's mental health stuff.
He ends up pounding the Madry.
So he's going to have to do something. Imagine Ronaldo got fat. It's so bizarre.
Like Wesley Sneijder. But it's like you don't. The thing is, though, he's so desperate to stay relevant. You've been one of the greatest footballers all time. You don't need to be desperate to stay relevant. You're always going to be relevant. You don't have to do a stupid celebration, which he did when you picked up the Ballon d'Or, or whatever it is, and in front of a room full of again grown people.
What did he do that? Did he do that Sally when he won the Ballon d'Or?
Yes, he did. Thierry Henry's in the background having handed him, and Thierry Henry's just kind of staring, just like, what the fuck? Honestly, it's one of the most cringe-worthy videos of all time.
I'm watching that. And something else I need to watch. I've still not seen it, but I'm hearing that Steve McLaren's Jamaica manager now.
Yes.
I'm saying some of the videos for that are absolutely amazing. Because he doesn't know, obviously, the cultural differences of an old English man and the Jamaican players coming, and they're all doing the handshakes, and the sort of everyone's there. And McLaren looks like obviously so out of his depth in the environment of meeting all these guys. So I need to watch it. I can't wait to see it.
It's everything you imagine and more, Tony.
yeah. I really am. Someone was telling me about it at the pub, and I was there. I was actually nearly left to go home and watch it.
Right, we will leave it there. We've talked enough, and we don't even get onto your friend bringing a walking stick into the pub. But we'll.
Oh wow! Fucking hell! It was so good, so good. Just something I've never witnessed before. Because he hurt his ankle again. He needed something, and he didn't have the. But just he came with it was a bamboo walking stick with it was so but it wasn't even quite big enough to do the job. So just a day of everyone coming up with Jafar jokes, Rafiki jokes, pretending it was just the excitement levels when he walked in. For me, it was like there'd be 20-minute breaks where people wouldn't be mentioning it. Then I'd have to bring it back.
See if I was going to meet my pals in the pub, having duffed my ankle and I needed a support mechanism, I would be. I'd be thinking, what's going to get me the least amount of slagging?
Yeah.
And I was like, right, an umbrella.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, it was just I gave him what a vibe it was. He was dressed quite nice cream shirt, couple of buttons on with new tattoos, and then this walking stick cane. Just oh man, and I've just said I'm like I now don't ever want to see you without it. That's not the only time I want to converse with you. So it was just stunning for a boozer as well. £2 pints, just everyone's absolutely choking on just the part of the mileage you could get on. It was just absolutely amazing. It was great.
Right, perfect. Tony, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Listeners, thank you very much. Check out Patreon. Loads of great stuff going up there. I checked in another day because I've been very poor at listening to Terrace podcasts, but I checked in and there's loads of stuff that I need to go back and listen to. A lot of really good topics, a lot of really good speakers, some less so than others, but that's your preference. We all have likes and dislikes, same with people, but we will leave it there. Tony, thank you. Everyone else, thank you. Goodbye, and we'll be back on Thursday, I believe. With what? Not sure, but we'll keep the suspense there.
I think it's Challenge Cup stuff, maybe.
Oh, riveting.
You think Ronaldo doing a celebration and the Nations League's bad? Two men topless on telly talking about the Challenge Cup. Cheers.